What is up, disc golfers, and welcome back to the round 2 back 9 coverage of the Alutaguse Open, played on the beautiful Mäetaguse disc golf course. This coverage is of course provided by MDG Media as always. My name is Elias Luukkonen. I'll be taking you through this back 9 with my voice, and hope you guys enjoy it as we take a look at the top 10 from front 9. Davidsson able to keep that one-stroke lead through the front 9 over Tamm and Mauri Villmann from our card, all shooting 4 under front 9s, and Hjalte Jensen shooting a hot 6 under front 9 from the chase card, making his way into that tied second position. A lot of players behind that. All round very tight competition as the course is pretty scoreable. Usually on these more scoreable courses we see a lot of tight results towards the top. And another very scoreable hole here on hole 10. Even though it's a pretty long hole, it's 132 meters playing slightly downhill. So the real distance that it plays is probably closer to 120. And today the wind is very calm. For all of these guys, it's a pretty simple hyzer, all about just getting that aim correct. Don't fade too far left, because there is that OB on the left side that can get you pretty easily if you fade way to the left. Blær there on the first, fading a little bit left, but not too far. He should be in the circle, or at least near the edge of the circle, putting for the birdie. It's one of the more difficult greens actually on the course, as you have that very exposed green. A lot of wind on this hole usually. Even on this calm day there was a little bit of a breeze, although it looks like for these guys it's pretty much dead calm. We saw Albert going for that left side as well. And Daniel here trying to make the correction, push it more to the right, and still able to end up on that second tier on the green. Those rocks on the outside of the green mark the 10-meter circle, so everybody on the card right around that edge of the circle range. Mauri with the great line. This looks to be closer than 10 meters, and what a nice shot there. Hitting even on the top tier of the green. He's gonna have a nice look for the birdie there, as everybody does. Albert here to get us started with a headwind. 9.5 meter putt, just barely high. We actually saw quite significant putting struggles from Albert on the front 9. He was driving the disc great, but just not able to get it in from inside the circle. And Blær as well. Daniel with a good putt there though. That was good, he says, after hype man Tommy Tikko hyping his putt up. And just look at this beautiful green we have on this hole. If you ever get a chance to visit Mäetaguse Disc Golf Park in Estonia, please take it. It's one of the most beautiful, most satisfying courses you're ever going to play. A lot of long open holes. You can just let the disc rip. And even though the OB comes into play on a lot of the holes, it's still one of the most fun courses you're gonna play on tour. As we saw, nice birdies from both Daniel and Mauri. Blær and Albert missing from edge of the circle to get a par from themselves. And we're gonna be moving to one of the hardest birdies on the course. Hole 11. 120 meters. It's a par 3, you have to throw something very high and very understable. Excuse me, had to just cough there. You want to throw something very high and very understable. Most players are either going for a mid-range or a fairway driver. You want to almost cut the corner early to move as far right as possible. As you can see, Daniel here going with a huge turnover shot. Crashing down to the last trees near the green. He looks to be inside the circle there. A rare result on this one, as only 13% of the field is getting a birdie on this one. And only 13% of the field being inside circle 1. More common result you see there from Mauri, as he has fumbled his way down to circle 2 after that tree hit. Still a pretty okay chance for the birdie, and Blær here with just a huge turnover shot as well. But he has faded out at the end. That is the problem with going with a fairway driver on this one. It's pretty easy to get the turn to the right with that fairway driver, but if it starts fading, it's gonna glide way to the right and way long. It looks like Albert is in danger of having the same fate, but he's still well within putting distance, even with that fade out. Looks to have gone with a slightly slower disc. And to be expected, nobody really in trouble here. Mauri with just a short approach, and everybody else, I suppose, will be running for the birdie on this basket. Pretty good run from Blær, excuse me. We saw a lot of good putts from him on the front nine from specifically circle 2. And what an unfortunate roll from Albert there. Giving it a pretty reasonable effort from circle 2. And Daniel here. Look at that putt. What a smooth stroke. I mentioned it on the front nine, but he actually changed his putting style for this season. And going with a bit of a more of a powerful spinny putt compared to his older pushy pitch putt. Really working out, especially on this round. He's made a lot of good putts from that circle's edge or even outside range already. Not to overlook Albert's good par putt there. Very common par hole, as 77% of the field is actually getting a par on this one. So no surprise to see one birdie and everybody else just tapping in for their pars here on 11. And hole 12 here. This is a hole all of these guys would really love to pick up. One of the more simple birdies on the back nine. For guys of this distance, for this caliber of players that we have on the card, it's pretty much a basic hyzer. The shape is not exactly a basic hyzer, as you do have to push it a little bit more inside than you feel comfortable with. Or if you have a lot of power, you can compensate for going less inside with just a lot more height. As you see Daniel there, he's hoping it to go as far as possible, and he's on the edge of the bullseye there, perfect line. Even with going that far inside and that high, he has still not ended up on the left side of the basket, which tells just how far you need to move left on this one. Mauri also with a nice looking line. He's a little bit short there. You can see the power difference between Daniel and Mauri pretty well. Both players going for a similar angle, but Mauri just not quite having the same amount of speed on the disc. And Blær here going really inside. Probably even more inside than he was intending to go. And that's going to be a long circle 2 look for him. This is a nice hole for Albert here, as he has that big power on the backhand. Very good angle. He's inside the circle there, just behind Daniel. Just a short putt left with between him and his birdie. As we see a little Linus Karlsson sighting as the caddy of Blær. Talking about Blær, not quite able to get that circle 2 putt in the basket. Mauri here, hopefully. But he has sailed it way to the right. It looks like the action on the card is opening up a bit of an opportunity to Daniel to open up that lead. He's already got a 2-stroke lead over both Albert, who just got the nice birdie there, and Mauri. But potentially even more after this one, as Daniel pretty much has just a tap in left for the birdie. And well done there. Daniel is already 7 under through the round, with still 6 very birdieable holes left to go. And one of those very birdieable holes right here on 13 is tied for the 4th easiest hole on the course. Almost 50% of the field birdieing this one. It's definitely one you want to get. Off the tee, you have a couple of options. You can go huge shot over / past all of the trees on the right side. But more commonly we see players going for a pretty short backhand hyzer layup, just to fade in front of that big tree that is gonna come in the pictures just very soon, leaving yourself with a nice hyzer approach on the either side, either a backhand or forehand hyzer to the green. But this looks to be going a little bit left for Daniel, and that's a pretty big mistake. He has gone OB on the left side. It's a pretty wide fairway. It really takes an errant shot to miss this one, and you can see it was going way too far left out of the hand. And Albert, on the other hand, is going too far straight. And that's gonna be one of the toughest spots you can find on the hole. He's gonna be right under that first tree. Mauri here going for the alternative route, which is a forehand and hyzer, but he has not turned this over. This is in danger of going OB right. But he has also stayed safe there. A pretty fortunate tree kick not to go to that OB right. And Blær, this is also swinging a little bit left, but he's inbounds there. Surprisingly, that's gonna be the best drive of the group. We'll have to see what the other guys have to work with. And Albert here just has to go with the standstill forehand under the tree. Luckily, a standstill forehand is usually no problem for him, but this time he's gonna be well short of the circle, even short of circle 2. They're gonna be a long, over 20-meter putt for the birdie. Definitely not what you want on this one, as it is one of the easier holes on the course. And Blær also leaving it to circle 2, not the approach he was looking for. Once again going with that champion ape, very overstable high-speed driver. And Mauri. He's fading towards the OB right, but he stayed in the circle there. Nicely done. Gonna have just an 8-meter putt left for the birdie. And Daniel here, he just needs to get up and down for par here, and going for a huge hyzer. I believe going with a splice there. Very overstable fairway driver. And that's gonna be a par for him. Not a par you're happy with, but after that drive, it's nothing better you can hope for. Pretty good run there from Albert. And Blær here from similar distance, just a little bit closer actually. Actually quite significantly closer. And wow, look at that. Blær from 15 meters. And that is going to be, believe it or not, that is his 5th outside the circle putt of the round. Can't even remember honestly when I would have last seen 5 outside the circles on one player in one round. As Mauri makes a great birdie there, gonna take one of the strokes back on Daniel. Cut that lead down to 2. As Daniel has made it from 4 meters. No surprises there, and Albert also gonna have to settle for par there. Settling for par is definitely the correct term here, as all of these players really want to birdie that one.
I just think the plastic is very premium. It's a high quality material. The way the disc feels in my hand.
I think it's the quality of plastic.
It's unlike any other plastic that you'll find in the industry.
The quality is better than any other company out there.
Again, just consistent plastic. It's something I can consistently trust on every single throw.
There's so many discs to choose from, and I guarantee if you tried every disc in the lineup, you're gonna want to put multiple discs in your bag.
It's extremely high quality. You can only say so much, so they have to eventually just try it themselves and see.
Hole 14. This is one of the signature holes on the course. Only 88 meters, but you have this triple mando that you have to go through. If you miss the triple mando and go past it on the wrong side, you will have to proceed to the drop zone you see in the pictures now on the bottom, leaving yourself with that circle 2 look. But all of these players are looking to hit that gap and skip their way into the circle. It's a pretty simple shot, especially today, as we're having very little wind. Perfect scoring conditions, no rain, yet still cloudy weather and 0 wind to speak of. But Mauri here has thrown a pretty poor looking shot, but just barely makes the mando, and he's gonna have a putt from circle 2 to still save a birdie after that what looked like an early release out of the hand. Blær on the other side with a bit of a late release and even turning it over. He has missed the mando on the right side and gonna have to go to the drop zone with a penalty stroke, so he's putting for 3 from now on. It's a pretty big mistake. The initial gap on the mando is not very big, but you have those banners to protect yourself from missing the mando completely. And Daniel there going with a pretty interesting play. He has actually gone with a Discmania Mutant, an extremely overstable mid-range, just trying to play it through the gap and not park it. Compared to Albert's beautiful touch shot here, just able to go straight through the gap and only 4 meters left there. But I believe Daniel's decision there, showing off that he's not quite the most comfortable with those backhand touch shots, rather going with an overstable hard thrown shot, as Mauri misses from circle 2, and Blær here to make another one from circle 2. This guy just never stops surprising me. Let's have another look. This putt had some good pace on it too, hitting high in the chains, and that's gonna be his 6th outside circle putt. Just a phenomenal putting performance from outside the circle. And Daniel Davidsson here, what a great putt from 11 meters. Taking advantage of the small wind, able to just push it in the basket. And he's gonna take 1 stroke back on Mauri Villmann. The lead is back to 3 over both Mauri and Albert here. Albert. If I talk about Blær having a great putting round, I have to talk about Albert having one of the most impressive driving rounds I have ever seen. He's putting for birdie on pretty much every hole so far. Very impressive stuff. And we're moving on to one of the more treacherous holes on the back nine. Hole 15, 222 meters, par 4. These red sticks that we're flying over right now is lining the right side of the hazard area. So anything left of those red sticks is gonna be considered a hazard. So you play where disc lies with a 1-stroke penalty. So players trying to keep their discs on the right side of those sticks, hopefully on the fairway, get some good distance off the tee. And from there you have a very touchy approach to this green with OB left, long and right, and that hazard area short. So you need to be accurate with your distance control. Also with your angle control, as the green is pretty far sloped from right to left. Excuse me, from left to right. And Daniel there with a nice regular looking shot. A little bit lower than he would like. Might have to contend with some of those bushes on the second. And Albert, unfortunately, he has found the right side OB. That might be the biggest mistake of his round so far on the driving part. He's gonna have a very difficult par save from there if he wants to go for that. And Mauri making a good correction here. Just putting it well inbounds with a pretty big hyzer. He's gonna have a mid-range or even a putter shot left from there. Just whatever he feels comfortable with. Blær here. He looks to be challenging the left side. Not quite sure whether he found the hazard or not, but that looked to be challenging the hazard line for sure. You could see Albert there measuring the distance to the green. I can tell you it is about 125 meters from here, even slightly uphill. He has to go with a full power shot almost. And that's a great throw from that position to get inside the circle. Has an incredible chance to save a par from there, even from a tough position. And Daniel here. Nice spike hyzer here. He's gonna be just outside the bullseye for another birdie on this back nine. Daniel really tearing apart this back nine with his great throws and good putting so far. Already has 4 out of 5 birdies. Probably gonna make that 5 out of 6. And Mauri as well there. Able to avoid the roll away even in this steeply sloped green. And looks like Blær did end up in the hazard area with his drive. But that's a nice approach, although gets a very unfortunate break. Look at everybody else just staying on top of the hill, but Blær getting a bad roll. Now he's putting for par from way down the hill. This time not able to make it from circle 2, but another respectable effort. And Albert here, what a great par save this would be. But that's another low putt. He's already had so many of those throughout the round. Just imagine his score if he would have made all of the low cage hits. Albert might actually be leading the tournament if he hadn't missed a single putt from circle 1. But making up on that with his great drives, still not losing a lot of strokes on the lead. As we saw a nice birdie from both Daniel and Mauri. And Blær and Albert unfortunately will both have to settle for a bogey. So that's some good separation there on the second most difficult hole on the course. As we're moving on to the last hole stretch on this course. Hole 16 is not the longest par 5, only 265 meters. But only after about 120 meters we're gonna be entering the woods here. Important to just stay on the fairway on both your first and your second shot. Hopefully your second shot landing somewhere near this FPO tee pad where you have only about 65 meters left to the basket. And just take a look at this green. It's one of the most treacherous greens you're gonna find in all of disc golf. On most sides of the green, just outside the bullseye, the green is dropping way down. A lot of interesting putts to be left here. And Daniel is going for the aggressive turnover shot. This is the most aggressive possible play on this hole. He has turned it over to the right. There's also a possible forehand play off the tee. This forehand by Mauri is trying to just get in play. He is hanging it out pretty wide to the left, but that should be just okay. And Albert gonna be going for a similar shot here. Forehand plays to not get a lot of distance off the tee, but rather just put yourself on the flat spot. Have a good run up for the second shot. Don't really have to worry about anything else. But Blær, as he's not a forehand player, he's going for this big anhyzer that is way inside, but might actually end up being pretty okay. If you're far to the right, but you get a lot of distance off the tee, you have some good gaps to hit. I think both Blær and Daniel might have found that sort of a faith. As Albert throws a nice shot, he's right next to that FPO tee pad, which is a sign of a good second shot on this one. And Mauri just too far left off the drive. He has to go for this forehand anhyzer. But what a nice looking line. And he also has a good chance for the birdie. A little bit shorter than Albert. But still pretty nice there. And look at this angle that Blær has to deal with. Just trying to hit a gap here, and unfortunately hitting the last one of the first set of trees there. And Daniel also from the right side of the fairway, just trying to scramble back. And from here, still had a chance for the birdie, but just hits the last tree on the left. This hole is really all about making your way down the fairway with each shot. The woods are not too thick. There's a lot of nice gaps here. As you can see, Blær finding a creative gap, going all the way around the left side of the fairway. And what a nice shot, but he has slid all the way down that hill. And from there, guys, I can tell you it's not even a simple layup. As you have to go at least 5 meters up the hill. Only about 20 meters in distance, but that uphill slope really making it difficult. And this one needed the brakes and getting a perfect tree kick at the right time. Albert was absolutely flying over the basket, or over the green rather, with that approach, but gets a great kick off the tree. Mauri just laying up there. And Blær, this is not going to be an easy layup at all. Let's see if he can get it up to the green without rolling away. He's going way up the hill, as I said, at least 5 meters upwards. And even giving it bid. That's a nice shot there, and he's going to have a pretty nice chance to still get a par. Par is a very common score here. Actually, over half of the field getting a par on this one. It's a pretty short par 5. A lot of things can happen, but usually you're able to get down the fairway pretty well. As Albert has done. Albert executing pretty much a perfect game plan of playing a safe forehand hyzer, then just progressing down the fairway on the second and the third shot, and just a nice tap in for the birdie there. As everybody else on the card is gonna card a par here. Moving on to the 2 last holes of the course. Hole 17 is a beautiful one, but also a pretty easy one. Over half of the field getting a birdie on this one. You have the straight gap the drone is flying through. That is more rarely seen amongst players. Most players going for that big forehand hyzer. There's a great wide gap for a forehand hyzer, and if you have the distance to reach this one with forehand, it's a pretty easy shot. Gap is very wide, the angle is very natural. You just need to push something on a hyzer through the gap and hopefully move pretty far right. The right side cornfield is, or not a cornfield, but just a farming field, is considered OB. But it's almost impossible to go all the way there with a forehand. As we saw a nice one there from Albert within putting distance. And Daniel trying to do something similar. That's a really nice angle on the disc. Just needs to keep moving forward. And what a nice skip at the end there. Landing on the edge of the circle, and he's inside the bullseye. Daniel Davidsson is gonna go to 20 under total and 10 under for the round. That is an incredible round. Already 10 under before the final hole. And Mauri there also just inside the circle. 3 forehands down, and Blær is going to show us the backhand. This is the much tighter gap of the 2. It looks like he has kind of missed the angle here. That needed to be flat or even a little bit of an anhyzer out of the hand to have any sort of a chance to stay close to the basket and inbounds. I think this time Blær might have actually gone OB here. But another circle 2 putt, and once again he has made it for his 7th circle 2 putt during the round. And once again we have no option to besides just watching this again. As Blær is creating some magic from circle 2 today. That is officially the highest number of circle 2 putts I've ever seen in one round. And Mauri there, making a good one just over the rim there. That's an important stroke, not to lose a single more stroke to Daniel, as he already has a pretty commanding lead over everybody on the card. Nice putt there from Albert, and we're still waiting for Daniel just to tap in his disc from inside the bullseye. That's a nice birdie, pushing his score to 10 under for the round. And what a finishing hole we have for this round 2. Hole 18, 188 meters, par 4, playing well downhill. That 188 meters probably playing closer to 150 or 160. A very reachable hole. If any of these players want to go for it, they definitely have the power to reach the green in one. We have seen multiple eagles throughout the first round. And it is playing as the easiest hole on the course. Playing with a low average of 3.45 for the field. So actually playing closer to a par 3. And imagine this, there was 10 eagle 2s on this hole in the round 2. That's a lot of eagles for a hole of this length. And Albert here with a huge hyzer. Has he got the distance? He does! Albert Tamm gonna have an incredible chance to finish with the birdie, as he's right outside the bullseye there. And Daniel probably trying to do something similar. Going with a slightly more overstable disc though. And he has got a great break. He was fading towards the OB left. But he has hit the pole and gone in bounds after that. What a nice result there. Mauri also playing that wide hyzer. This looks like a nice line. Gonna be probably a little bit short here. But not by much. He's still inside circle 2. And you can just see why this hole is playing as the easiest hole on the course. With players of this arm speed, they can just throw a regular hyzer and be within jump putt distance. That's exactly what Blær is doing here. A very nice hyzer, and he's actually inside the circle there. Showing off some great distance he has got on his backhand. And even Daniel, with by far the weakest drive of the group, still able to just pitch it up under the basket. He's gonna take his lead to round 3. And the lead is gonna be at least 3 strokes. Depending on what happens with Mauri's upcoming putt and Albert's putt. But Blær here for the eagle. Finishing the round at -3. Which, considering all the great putts he made, is surprisingly low. But it was really a putting round for him, not a driving round. This is a driver's course. You need to throw a lot of long, accurate shots to give yourself the chances for the birdie. As we saw Mauri there for a birdie. And Albert. Eagle finish, pushing his score to 9 under par. And just, guys, imagine if he didn't have all of those inside the circle misses. That could have been a course record round from Albert. But talking about course record, maybe not course record, but the tournament record for this tournament. Daniel Davidsson going 11 under. What a great round. Clean play, good drives, good putting. Really had all the ingredients for the hot round. As we're gonna be taking a look at the top 10 standings after 2 rounds. We're gonna have Daniel Davidsson with that lead. And other guys for tomorrow's lead card on MDG will be, of course, Mauri Villmann, Albert Tamm, and from the chase card, I believe, Jesse Nieminen also with a nice second round, pushing his way to the lead card. Thank you guys so much for watching this coverage provided by MDG Media. If you want to support them on Patreon, you have the option to do that. These guys are working so hard. It's hard to see on the outside, but the time and effort that these coverages are taking is just significant. My name was Elias Luukkonen. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully see you guys in the final round.